What's going on, guys? Ethan Yorke here, back with another video. I apologize for the lack of uploads. It's been nonstop 12-hour shifts at work recently, and I just haven't had time to go out and get content. But today, I'm going to be doing an overview of all of my photography gear and what I use to edit on for my car photography. You can follow me on Instagram at yorke.jpg if you want to get a better idea of what kind of car photographer I am. And most of the time, I try to post daily as long as I have the content to do so. Before I get into it, I do kind of want to throw a shameless plug out there. My clothing company, Yorke Apparel, is doing a 50% off everything sale right now. I thought that all of my extra clothes from season 1 had been thrown away, but I actually just found everything. So I'm selling everything at 50% off. The shop is no longer live, so if you do want something, just PM me on Instagram or Twitter or anything like that, and I'll get an order out to you. Without any further ado, let's just jump right into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is my camera body. This is a Sony a7 Mark III. This was a huge upgrade from the last camera I had, which was a Canon Rebel T3i. Great starter camera, but just didn't do everything I wanted it to do. It is worth mentioning, now I'm sure you've heard this 100 times, but if you're a beginning photographer, you're just getting into photography and you're using what you have available to you and you're lusting after these $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 camera bodies or all these expensive lenses, it needs to be said that your gear does not define what skill level you are at. The most important thing as a photographer is not how expensive your gear is or what camera you have or what lenses. It's your ability to learn and your ability to adapt. And for me, my biggest source of education as far as this goes have really been the people around me and the people that I follow on Instagram that I like. I remember when I first started out doing car photography, I followed a guy, his name is Jesse. Him and I are pretty cool now. At Lucified, I'll put his Instagram name in the description. And I loved him. I thought his photos were awesome. I just aspired to be him. So I would sit and I would study his pictures for hours trying to figure out how in the world does he do this effect, or why do his pictures look like this and this, that, and the other. And eventually I just started figuring out how he did certain things. And I didn't copy him by any means, but I figured out how he did certain things and I adapted it in my own way. So don't think if you've only got a $300-400 camera that you can't be a great photographer. Just go out there, study the people you look up to, develop your own style, and just go out there and get it. But anyway, like I was saying earlier, this is my camera body. Right now, I do have my Sigma 30mm 1.4 prime lens on there with a polarizing filter on the end. You've heard people say it a million times. If you've ever been on a Facebook forum for car photography, polarizing filters are key. And there is a big difference between cheap ones and expensive ones. So I'll do a whole separate video on that, but just get yourself a polarizer right now. If you're taking pictures of cars, buy it. Moving this to the side for now, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my favorite lens that I have in my collection. This right here is my Sigma 16mm f1.4. Now, the reason why I like this lens so much is because the 30mm 1.4 from Sigma, neither of them are art lenses, they're the contemporary series. The 16mm will actually focus at f1.4 if you need to use it. The 30mm does not like to focus at 1.4. In fact, 1.8 is pretty much the cutoff for that lens. Otherwise, you'll have to put it into manual focus, and it's just kind of a pain. But this one is a beast all the way around. I love the wide angle shots, especially for more commercial type of pictures where it's mostly landscapes and things like that. This is an absolute beast of a lens, and it's not too expensive. And what I mean by not too expensive is it's not like a G Master lens price or the Sigma art lenses or anything like that. This is just a good solid lens that you could pick up for less than 500 bucks. Last but not least, we have the good old faithful 50mm 1.8. I think this is pretty much everybody's starting lens once they actually get out of owning a kit lens of some sort. This thing I don't really like. I don't particularly like shooting with anything above a 50 or really shooting with a 50 at all. It's just not really my style. I don't like having to walk half a mile up the street just to get the car in there. It's nice for detail shots and things like that, but if I have to take one lens with me on a shoot, it's going to be the 16 or the 30. Probably would end up being the 30 just because the 30 was the lens that I bought an actual nice polarizer for. and it does a great job. Love that lens, but it's going to be between the two Sigma lenses. The 51.8 from Sony is just not my favorite lens. Next, I want to get into my computer setup. Now, obviously, if you're going to be editing photos and you have the budget to either have a laptop or a desktop, I say go after it. You get so much more features and tools by editing on an actual computer versus editing on like Lightroom Mobile or Photoshop Mobile or whatever you're editing on. If you're seriously going to get into photography, just go out, get yourself a computer. It's worth it. Soon as you make that jump from editing on your phone to editing on a computer, you'll realize there's so much more to learn about the features that come on the computer programs versus the phone applications, and your pictures will just come out better. You'll be able to, spot things that you wouldn't normally be able to see on a smaller screen. So let's just get into it. First things first, this is a massive screen, obviously. This is actually not a computer monitor. This is a 43-inch TV. Now, the reason why I went with a TV instead of a monitor, which it does have its drawbacks, but you go to buy a monitor that's 27 inches, it's 4K, they want $300 for it, right? This is a 43-inch 4K smart TV that has an HDMI port, so it'll hook up to my tower, and I picked this thing up for like $210. And the reason why I like working with such a big screen is because I'm really anal about stuff in the background that could possibly be distracting. I mean, even these little like dots and stuff like that on this particular picture of my M3 drive me crazy. And it's much, much easier to see on such a big screen like this. And honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you, it makes me feel powerful. I sit here and I'm click-clacking away in this giant screen. I enjoy having this as my workstation. And of course, you can see at the bottom that Lightroom Classic and Photoshop are primed and ready to go whenever I have a new set to edit. A smaller accessory that I highly recommend that all photographers get is actually gonna be this little thing right here. This is a 2 terabyte portable hard drive, and I got it for, I believe it was like $60 plus tax. Before I was working primarily on a desktop, I was working on my Mac, which is sitting over there. And the thing is I use my Mac when I'm, when I'm mobile, when I have to go out to Simi Valley and I'm doing a shoot and I want to edit on the fly. Obviously, I take my laptop. I'm not going to take my whole desktop setup. But the nice thing is, if I take pictures, I edit part of a set that I took, in Simi Valley, for example, and then I come back to Lancaster, I could just transfer all of my raw files from my MacBook, put it on the hard drive, and then just plug the hard drive into the computer, click, clack away. I can continue editing the set from the comfort of my own home instead of being like, okay, now I'm all the way back home, and instead of using my big screen, I'm stuck on the laptop because all my pictures are on the laptop. Not to mention the MacBook, I think, only has like 256 gigs of storage, and if you're shooting in RAW, you will realize very quickly that you are gonna run out of space. My tower is over here. It's a little dusty, so I don't really want to show it off. I got this one back in like 2011. In the nature of full disclosure, it was like $1,100 for a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor, and the tower. It's got 32 gigabytes of RAM, a terabyte of internal storage, some Beats sound card that I literally never use, and like an okay-ish graphics card. But it was a really, really nice deal at the time. I really just wanted something. I was getting into like After Effects and Cinema 4D at the time, and I really wanted something that had a lot of RAM so that I can handle running multiple programs at once. And for being as old as it is, this thing's a beast. I mean, this computer's faster than the MacBook, like by far. Like it's just an absolute monster. And the faster that, you can move things around in Lightroom and the faster everything responds, it just increases your time for your workflow and everything just gets done. Now on to the unnecessary stuff. This is a Logitech G910 keyboard. Literally have no actual reason for this at all. But hold on, let's get a little, listen to those click clacks. I literally bought a Corsair keyboard. It was like $70. Brought it home, played on the keyboards. They weren't click-clacky enough, so I returned them and spent like $100 more on this one just because it's just, listen to the click-clack. It's so good. And then I also ended up getting myself a Logitech mouse that matches, and it's got the little preset buttons here on the side, although it's kind of useless because you can set these to individual presets. So these keys right here I have set to export in Photoshop. This one I believe is like step backward, and then this one is step backward in Lightroom because they're two separate combinations of keys. But that's really what I wanted out of a keyboard. It's completely unnecessary, but I just wanted little shortcuts that I could hit in order to do things instead of going up into the menus and accomplishing them. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I promise you I'm going to try to get more consistent with the content. Just my work schedule's been nuts. I hope you guys can understand. Feel free to follow me on both of my Instagrams to get more content of my car as well as the cars that I'm shooting at yorke.jpg and at yorke M3. I will see you guys some other time.